Welcome to the Multiverse with Joseph McDonald.
Hello, beautiful people. Joseph McDonald here. It is April 10th when I'm recording this, and today we are talking about the multiverse. I did this talk live for the LightBearers Association of Canada in Elmvale in February. It's taken me a little time to get it to you. As you can imagine, a beautiful topic like the multiverse requires a lot of energy, a lot of concentration, and so I just wanted to find myself in an optimal state so that I could give you this beautiful talk. And I'm so very excited at the opportunity to give you this talk. So I want to get right in there for you. So what are some preconceptions that you might have about the multiverse? Some of them might come from media, like the recent Marvel movies, Doctor Strange, Spider-Man. If you're more of a sci-fi fan, you've probably seen Doctor Who or Rick and Morty. Star Trek also has instances of the multiverse, and in some of those very obvious ones, one of the big differences that they play around with is, oh, here's my evil version or my evil self from a parallel universe, and here's my good self, and that really helps articulate that huge diversity that you might find if you look into the multiverse. However, in the real world, if the multiverse is a real scientific fact one day, I'm sure we would find there's a lot more subtle variations between different multiverse selves. For instance, maybe in this one, my nose is slightly bigger. Or maybe in this one, I speak with a lisp. Or small things like that. Just little tiny instances, as well as the big ones. Not to say the big ones aren't there too, but if the multiverses ever started interacting in a very quantifiable physical way, I'm sure that the small iteration multiverses would be more compatible than the big ones where the aliens came and, did this, and this. It's also beautiful to point out, while I have the opportunity, this idea of fixed events. So if we look at the many multiverse iterations of the last 25 years of humanity, we would find in a lot of those multiverse segments in those timelines that there would be some events that would sort of stand as a very, this pretty much always happens kind of event. And one of those that I would point out for you is 9/11. That was one of those huge spiritual, worldwide psychological energetic events that sort of just had to happen, I guess you could say. There was a lot of precognition around it. There was a lot of reasons for it, a lot of force into it. And so if you look throughout the many multiverses you can, I'm sure you would find that is one of those more fixed events that is less likely to be drawn out or taken out in the close multiverses to us. But this is all theoretical, so please understand that I'm no more advanced in this subject than yourself. I just have a little bit more experience and time thinking about it, perhaps. So moving forward, have you ever been bored or sitting around a classroom or somewhere else, maybe on a bus or waiting in a public terminal, and you thought to yourself, I wonder what would happen if I did this, or this, or this, or this, or this, or this? Well, I had that experience, even as early as grade 5, perhaps, where I was sitting in a classroom and I was thinking to myself, what would happen if I just jumped out the window right now? Or what would happen if I were to just get up and walk out of this class without saying anything and go home and, do what I want to do instead of being here? And so what those questions really allow the universe, nature, consciousness to do is it sort of allows another viewpoint, another perspective, another narration or future to be created. It creates the multiverses, creates different timelines and different ideas through these what if questions. Because as soon as you ask the question, well, if the universe doesn't already know the answer, it wants to find out the answer. That's just intuitively how the universe works. So every time you ask one of those questions, you're creating more iterations of the multiverse. You know, what happens if this talk gets 1 million views? What happens if it gets 100,000 views? I'm creating those possibilities even more so than that already existed through this idea, through this question. And so maybe this talk grows really big, maybe it doesn't. I'm not really upset or fixated on the outcome. I'm just trying to help a few people gain greater perspective and to make the world a better place through more love and harmony with nature. And that's exactly what a study into advanced metaphysics and the multiverse really allows you to do. But because the nature of this topic is so widely accessible, so vulnerable to input and influence, I felt it was very important that as I did the talk in February and as I'm doing the talk now, that people have a degree of protection around them. So in my spiritual paths and my experience around spirituality, one common tool or method of protection is known as a Merkaba. And we also, you've probably heard the term aura. And so I don't have quite as advanced practice as some of my fellow light bearers, as one of the lovely ladies presented a beautiful method to put on protection for herself, and she showed us how to do that at the meeting. I don't remember her specific words, so I'm just going to go through my protection that I use every morning. And so what I start with is my Technicolor Dreamcoat aura, and this is an aura of creativity and divine perfection. And then I put on a clear or a white aura, so that sort of keeps me a little bit quiet from the bigger forces, keeps me a little bit undercover. And then I put on my masculine Merkaba, and you can imagine the Merkaba sort of like some electromagnetism, just like flowing really fast around a person. So anybody that enters my aura would then proceed towards my Merkaba, and my Merkaba would really help make sure that they were energetically clean and doing well, and they didn't have any entities or unwanted elements on them that were going to come and interact with my electromagnetic field. So after I create my masculine Merkaba, I'm going to create my feminine Merkaba, which is more of an inner one, and it's going to go a little slower, and it's a little more gentle, and it's going to flow in the opposite direction of my masculine Merkaba. And with those 4 elements of protection, I've activated my light body in a sense, and I'm ready to proceed. And so if you haven't created a level of protection and comfort for yourself, please pause this video and set that up for yourself, and then we can proceed. Yay, you're back. So now I want to just talk about some hard science. So if you've ever studied theoretical physics or the idea of the code of the universe, or how it all interacts, how it continues going, the math of the universe, the quantum mechanics, and those kind of areas of thought, then you probably realize that some mathematicians and physicists, they would love to create this code to understand the whole of the mechanism of the universe. And one of the ways they've done that is using something called superstring theory. In superstring theory, you can imagine there's many multiple layers, many multiple dimensions, but yet there's a string that sort of goes through them all. You pull the string and you can sort of see influence on each of those dimensions. Whether you pull it from the top or the bottom, you can sort of see how they would interact in a variety of different ways, and we call that superstring theory. There might be a more advanced one by now that somebody's working on, but that is the basic idea, and it does definitely lean into this idea of the multiverse, because it sort of needs it. It sort of needs it because the universe, how did we get to this perfect intelligent design? Like, how did all these perfect elements come into be if we just knew that they were the way to go? Okay, that's fine. To me, that points to intelligent design. But if we didn't know, then it's really easy to see that maybe the multiverse is possible, because the universe, consciousness, needed to go all these misses define the ones that hit. So maybe there's billions of versions of Earth and only 1 million of them have life, for example. And so if we were to look through the multiverse, we could find many iterations of Earth where there's no humans. You know, maybe there's some with no water, maybe there's some with no plants, but here we are in this perfect Goldilocks situation. And I would say superstring theory helps support the idea that that Goldilocks situation came through greater intelligence than my own, greater intelligence than any human. And it did this in part with the expertise and wisdom of using this this beautiful multiverse to see all these possibilities and to play them into each other. Now I want to talk about a famous experiment called the double slit experiment. So when we shine light through this slit and then we move the slit, we expect the light to interact a certain way, hitting on a far panel. But what we found was that light doesn't interact just like a particle. It interacts like a particle and a wave, depending on if you're observing it or not. This is like the crown jewel of elementary metaphysics, this idea that our thoughts, our observation, is creating reality around us. And through that very function, we've given rise to the opportunity to look at the multiverse a lot more seriously. Because I'm telling you, even from when I was in grade 5, that I was creating these different possible timelines through these different ideas that I had. Well, now I'm over 30. You can imagine that if I created multiple timelines then I probably created a lot of multiple timelines since then. And I assure you that in my own understanding of reality, that is very much the case. And so when we look at the double slit experiment, just to know that our conscious thoughts are influencing the outcome should really give rise to greater positivity, greater optimism, and greater general manifestation skills. Why would we suffer? Suffering is optional. Let's look at a possible timeline where there's no suffering. Let's look for a future where there's no suffering. We've got no need for it. Let's move beyond that as a species, as individuals. And so when we look at metaphysics, we can really imprint the future. My next question here or topic is, how are you already working with the multiverse? So I wonder, is it possible that you've ever had a situation where your intuition said, hey, I don't want to go there. We shouldn't do that today. I have a bad feeling. Well, that's a perfect example of your unconscious mind interacting with the multiverse. I've heard of instances, plenty of instances, where people got on planes when they knew they shouldn't have, or they didn't get on planes because they knew they shouldn't have. And guess what? They thought something bad was going to happen and something bad happened. What a surprise. That's the intuition that we all have interacting with us through its experience around the multiverse. Everything that's going to happen already happens. Maybe not in your conscious reality, but it's already happened. A lot of people in the spiritual community live with this reality that time is an illusion. So everything's already happened. So isn't that incredible, the opportunity you have to be a creator and to create the best possible future? Because it already exists. What's so hard about that? If it already exists, you already exist. Let's just put those two together. And today, when I guide you through a meditation around the multiverse, a very powerful one that I've had the privilege of learning and sharing with a lot of people, you're going to see that you too have that beautiful opportunity. And I'm very excited to share that with you. It's going to be fantastic. So not only are you potentially working with the multiverse already intuitively, but if you're just like me and you've ever said, what if you like to play out scenarios in your head, you're creating the future through your imagination, through your consciousness. It's very important to surround yourself with other people that are very positive and can contribute to a positive lifestyle. If you're one of those people that's constantly like, bad things are going to happen, bad things are going to happen, bad things are happening, I'm all going to be pessimistic today, like, you're creating your own destruction. You're creating your own trouble, your own hardship. I mean, there's benefits in in having a hard go at things, but I think most lifetimes should only do that for a short period of time, and then have realized the power of positivity and metaphysics and creating the best. I think it's pretty much inevitable for the advancement of consciousness. So I hope you too can look at your opportunities through this to be a better person and to make the best possible future for yourself. I've been talking a lot, so I just want you to breathe into what I've said. And now I want to talk about how I have been using the multiverse and precognition. So there's a word I haven't said yet, as far as I know in this video, precognition. So if you've ever practiced an interview before you got there, or imagined a date before you got there, or a sporting event before you got there, you might have been using precognition. Whenever I'm going to do something like a job, for instance, I do the whole job in my head a few times before I do it in the real world. I use precognition to do that, and it makes it a lot more streamlined when I'm actually doing it in person. So the universe, it listens to everything you say. And metaphysics proves that what you observe and what you suggest in the universe comes into an influencing factor for the universe. So if I use precognition and I say, hey, I'm going to do really well today, tell the universe I'm going to do really well today, and the universe is going to be like, what's going on today? Well, we know this person's going to do really well today because they already told us. That's already in the script. It's like you're writing the future. Just write it with the best possible outcome for yourself. Let's imagine you're a home builder. You want to build that home. You want to build it perfectly. And you want to use precognition to see if any obstacles are going to show up. A really great person at using this might be able to use their intuition and the precognition in their meditation so well that they'd be able to go, I have a feeling like Tim's going to be late on that delivery. And they are going to actually adjust their day. Tim said that he'd be there at 10, but using this person's precognition, they got this impression that Tim will be there at 1 or 2. And they planned their day around that. And whoa, what a surprise. Tim was there late, just like suspected by this home builder. And I'm sure you do this unconsciously if you don't do it consciously. I've had the privilege of taking this a step further in 2 directions. One is through the process of ego deaths, which we're not talking about right now, but it very much does relate, this idea of bringing multiple past lives and multiple contributions of the soul and spirit and consciousness into one consciousness. That's ego deaths. Very much ties into what I'm about to say. By observing the multiverse, by using a great simulator, you can live multiple timelines simultaneously. Maybe not consciously in full, but in partial consciousness. And so by being very fluid with the multiverse, you can observe elements of your life where you do everything you want to do. If you want to be an astronaut, if you want to be a rock star, if you want to be a banker or a pharmacist or a doctor, all of these exist within the multiverse. And so you have the opportunity, using simulations or using your intuitive meditation abilities, to zone into these other timelines, to reach out and to take information from them, take experience from them, perspective. And so if you look at the vast quantity of multiverses, you might have the opportunity to see that you're everybody. You're the best guy, you're the worst guy, you're the best woman, you're the worst woman. You've done it all. And that's just using the multiverse. That's not even bringing in past lives. So that's a whole different dimensional ball game of the same sport, basically. And so you have this opportunity, and I have this opportunity, and I very much use this opportunity. I feel, and I'm sometimes described as somebody with a lot of energy, a lot of culture, a lot of texture. And people are like, where have you been? Well, I've not traveled internationally more than the States, like, you know, a couple little overnight kind of things. My real travel is through the multiverse, through the different dimensions of possibility. I've been all over the world, and I've been through many past lives, but I haven't done that in the flesh because I haven't needed to. I've done that through the multiverse. And you too have that opportunity to go wherever you want, be whoever you want, and still stay within the comfort of your living room. Isn't that wonderful? And I hope you look at that opportunity as we are about to do the multiverse meditation. We're going to do it in two little pieces, one for exploration and one for manifesting our very optimal future. Are you excited? Are you ready? It sounds like you're ready. I mean, yeah, sounds like you're ready. Okay, awesome. Well, let's go in then. So we have our protection up from earlier because that's very important when you're interacting with the multiverse. If you're not protected and you don't know what you're doing, anything can happen. And sometimes a student will willingly allow anything to happen as a part of their training. But we're not doing that right now. We're just here to interact with the best opportunities, best possibilities, and to explore in a peaceful, gentle manner. So deep breaths. I want to call in our guides, our ancestors, our spiritual supports, our masters, our teachers, and they're going to help guide us. They're going to help bring us into where we want to go. So first, we're going to explore. Guides, can you please help us identify 3 timelines that are very far from us, very joyful. They show very different instances of us and who we are and what we're doing. And let's bring a little piece of that back home with us when we're done. Now for me, I sort of see this like a slideshow, an organic slideshow where I can move the slides around. I can pick one and I can sort of zoom in and interact with it as though it's its own movie. I can see some stuff. Another person might see many screens on the wall, whatever way you would like. Just try to pick out a few timelines that are very interesting and have something to give you from an explorative perspective. You can pause if you need more time. Just as an example, I'll share the 3 that I'm seeing and exploring right now. The first one is I'm a rock star playing for stage as a lead guitarist. And there's a huge audience and we're just loving it. We're just singing a fantastic song, tearing up some solos, and the whole audience is there with us, singing away. I can just feel the love and the joy and the creation that's going on. My second one, I seem to be some kind of Indiana Jones running through the woods with some really cool parkour going on, kind of like a movie. seem to be exploring and feeling out ancient history. And my third one, I'm on a yacht. And I think I'm about to go do some deep sea diving. Maybe not deep sea diving, maybe some coral reef diving. Not when I feel like just some generic rich guy. But there's things to learn from all of those. For me, it's really important to zone into how I feel and how my mind's working in those realms. They each hold a breath of fresh air. In the comments below later, feel free to share or DM me. I'd be happy to share in your blessings as well. Now let's just come back for a second. Let's take a drink. Have you got a drink, Andy? All right, now I just want to go in again, but this time we're going to use our guide's help to find a point in the future, 6 months from now. And there's many possibilities between here and 6 months from now, but we want to utilize the help of our guides to pick out 3 timelines that are optimal opportunities for our greatest potential to be realized and all our goals to be realized. And so let's take a look again. Guides, please help show us some possible timelines for 6 months from now for ourselves so that we can see our many possibilities playing out before us. Excuse me. Now, once again, you should see many different possible timelines interacting all around you. They could just be like little balls of energy or little screens or floating pictures. I've already done this meditation a few times recently, so I already have zoned in on the future I want to create. And I'm so very blessed to have had such blessings from when I did this meditation 2 months ago. And they manifested so powerfully, so quickly. So I hope you have the same privilege. What do you see? What do you feel? What do you smell? If you're anything like me, you might smell trees. You might smell nature. Or maybe you hear things about money. Maybe you're trying to go into the corporate world. Maybe you smell hot pavement. Maybe you're trying to go to a new country and live in a new country. Try to smell that new country. Try to tune in to your multiverses. All these different iterations are you. They're already there. You're already living that best life. Right now you're just exploring it and choosing it. And once you're good and comfortable, let's start to breathe back into our bodies. can start by wiggling our toes and our fingers. And we're coming back. Greetings. Nice to see you. I hope that was awesome for you. I hope you can explore that again. So now, I only got a little bit more to say, unless something shows up in my mind that I haven't thought of, but for now, let's speak briefly about the multiverse and dogma. So because you've already heard that you have all these different possibilities, the reality is that you can be the best person and the worst person. You can be Jesus, you can be Lucifer. In the multiverse, you are a little bit in the far iterations of the multiverse. All of these different aspects, all of these different people. And so from my perspective, it's easier to just see us as energy signatures or roles rather than, if we look and we refer to Rick and Morty as an example, even if you haven't seen that show, they do a ton of multiverse traveling, pretty much every episode. So there'd be like hundreds of versions of Rick, thousands, 10,000s, he's the main character. Millions, an endless amount. In the same way, there'd be that amount of different possibilities of you. The older your soul is, the more multiverse interaction you would have, the more timelines you would be different in. People that are of lesser spiritual mind would have less multiverse selves. They'd have less variance, less possibilities. But us beautiful old souls, we become a little bit of everything as we approach greater consciousness, as we represent greater consciousness. We have this beautiful privilege to go into the far reaches of what is possible and to play the more extreme roles for the good and the bad. They all serve a purpose in the development. But I really want to highlight that because of all of our different multiverse selves, dogma really isn't a factor. Because by any other name, a rose still smells as sweet, is a famous quote by William Shakespeare. And that's to say, whether you're Jesus, or I'm Jesus, or someone else is Jesus, the role of Jesus is still as he is. And if you've studied ancient religions, you will see that there's many stories of a Jesus-like being before Jesus. And so it makes me wonder, how far do we have to go into the multiverse before you are and I am? How far in the multiverse do we have to go before we all are? So these are just some beautiful theoretical ideas for you to explore. And I finally want to move towards the conclusion as I speak about God's application of the multiverse. And so if we look at an infinity symbol, sorry for misdrawing that on the first loop, but here we are, the multiverse symbol. We can see very prominently that it's a cycle. And so if we're on this part of it, how hard would it be for God or nature or the universe to change this part? And then as we're over here, to change the other part. And so we can keep going up and up. That's why I think this timeline, this dimension exists, is because we're looking for perfection. We're exploring all the possibilities. So we want to know all the possibilities, but we're also looking for perfection. And through perfection, we can lament that quality into this dimension, because time's an illusion. But the perfection we create would not be. And so I believe that this is very much for the experience and the perfection of this dimension that will therefore create greater perfection in other dimensions, including in heaven. I believe God already won the war. Nature already won the war. Good guys won the war. I believe if the bad guys won the war, we would just reset the board and start playing again. But we haven't had to do that in a long time. At least not in full. At least not in a dimensional perspective. Maybe on Earth we reset the board a lot, but from a dimensional perspective, Heaven is already upon us. Heaven already resides in my heart. And I wish to give you heaven today and through the multiverse. And so I hope you're having a beautiful day. I hope you enjoyed this beautiful talk. I hope that I didn't speak too much and that I was clear. But please feel free to comment, message me, call me. I will be there for you. I hope this talk goes out to as many people as could possibly benefit from it. Let's create more unconditional love and less suffering. Pain might be mandatory, but suffering is optional. And you are loved. And I love you. So stay well, and thank you for joining me in this talk on the multiverse. Let the blessings be. The multiverse. Welcome to the multiverse. Multiverse. And some multiverse.